Hello and welcome to Table for One. Jacob Ryder, a longtime viewer of ours. It's so nice to meet you. We are so excited to talk to you. You chose 1981's The Great Muppet Caper, which you said in your email is a really important movie to you. And I look forward to finding out why. What's this movie about?
So this is the second Muppet movie, and it actually was released, I believe, right in the middle of the last season of The Muppet Show. It follows Kermit, Fozzie, and Gonzo as they travel to London to interview a fashion designer, Lady Holiday, played by the wonderful Diana Rigg. And basically because she has been the victim of a series of jewel robberies. And while they're there, they meet Miss Piggy and all the other Muppets and baseball diamonds and water ballets and Charles Grodin being Charles Grodin. And this is a really just I love this movie. I said this is a very important movie for me because I think that this is a movie that really helped seal my love for film. I saw it when I was really young. And there are a couple of scenes that I think are pivotal in my, like, okay, I'm now, like, and I guess it's also the Asperger's in me, and that became the movie, like the movie obsession with me. And I think the two scenes in particular are the bicycle sequence in the park and also the fantasy sequence with the water ballet, because I was just like, what in the world? And I didn't know that they could even do that with puppets.
It's impressive.
It's incredibly impressive. And this is also the feature directing debut of Jim Henson. This is actually the only Muppet movie that he directed. I don't really consider the Dark Crystal and Labyrinth Muppet movies per se, but and it's a real shame because there are interviews I saw with him where he talked about how he wanted to create an old-fashioned Hollywood musical with this movie, and I think he really succeeded. I think that the musical numbers are very, very well staged, and I think that there's also that just joy of not just old school musicals, but I think also just of like 1960s British caper movies and other different things. And I specifically remember because this was one of 4 movies that I watched almost religiously when I was a kid that made me fall in love with movies. It was this, the original Muppet movie, and The Wizard of Oz, and Mary Poppins.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, I could gush about how wonderful this movie is for the longest time. And I don't know, what did you guys think?
Well, I hadn't seen it since it came out, but Alonso, had you seen it recently?
I'd actually never seen it all the way through. I was 14 when it came out, so I was very much an adult at that point. So
cool for Muppets.
Yeah, I mean, I love the first Muppet movie, and ran out and saw that as a kid. But for some reason, this one just eluded me, and I'd seen a lot of clips from it. In fact, like we had a TV station at my high school, and I had gotten us onto like all these different publicist lists to get like stills for my movie reviews in the school newspaper. But they started sending me the big 3/4-inch tapes with clips from movies that we had at the TV station, and we had the clips from this. So I'd seen a truncated version of the big the first time it happens number, but never like the whole thing all the way through. But yeah, there's a lot here that's great. I mean, it's the Muppets. What's not to like? Although I at the same time, I think there are moments where it sort of strays from really digging into like the fun character bits to like kind of just sort of generic wackiness with the caper and everything. I remember years later I did I hosted one of the first public screenings of Muppet Treasure Island at a children's festival I used to program in Dallas, and Brian Henson was there, and then one of the screenwriters, and he talked about how it was the first time working with the Muppet characters, and how he would pitch a thing, and he goes, and they would tell me with a very straight face, "Oh, Kermit would never say that." And in this movie, even though, like, yes, Henson's directing, there are moments where I'm like, there was a specificity that I think is kind of missing. Maybe it's because, like, it's co-written by Tom Patchett and Jay Tarses, who are giants in TV. Like, Jay Tarses created, the Days and Nights of Molly Dodd, which is one of my favorite shows ever. And they worked on, like, Buffalo Bill and, Bob Newhart Show and all these things. But I don't know that I think it's fun. I'm glad I saw it. There's a lot to love here if you're a Muppet fan, certainly. But I don't think it pings in all the ways that the Muppet movie does.
Well, it's two different scripts that got put together, right?
Oh, yeah. Is it?
I think it's two different movies. Like, one was like a heist movie and one was like a London thing. Is that right, Jacob?
I think that's right. I know that it was always supposed to be a heist movie, and I think there was something involving it being in London. I think also making it in London also just made it more of a convenience because the Muppet Show was already shooting in London. And so I figured, when they shot the first Muppet movie, they were all over the US, or mostly in California, and they were just like, okay, let's keep this regional. And I think also because immediately right after this, because Henson went from doing Great Muppet Caper straight into The Dark Crystal with absolutely no break. So I guess it was kind of like, well, we're doing one. Let's see if we can squeeze another one in before we do this one. So,
and as we see from the Ron Howard Jim Henson documentary, he was this notorious workaholic. Yeah. Like, his kids didn't see him. And, they realized that he was doing something that was groundbreaking and really important culturally. But, like, if they wanted to see their dad, they had to go to the set. And so I guess he was a notorious workaholic like that. I had a really good time. I laughed a lot. The meta fourth wall breaking is cute for a while, but gets a little old. It works here and there. There's a bit where Kermit is telling Piggy that she's kind of over the top in her delivery, and I'm giving you 800 different emotions, and so there's some cute things in there, but that kind of wears a little bit thin. But I do love that Charles Grodin is taking this totally seriously.
There needs to be more Grodin and Piggy because they are on fire in this movie.
And I love when years later he would tell these really just crazy stories about Miss Piggy that are just I mean, and Tim Curry did the same thing. He talked about how like Miss Piggy was the one love of his life that got away, and I think for me it's the fact that, like, and I think it's when he's talking to Miss Piggy and he's just mentioning all of these things that he loves about her, and it's just like, oh my God. I mean, it's so funny how serious he's taking this.
Totally sincere. Yes.
Yeah, it's what Michael Caine does in Muppet Christmas Carol, in that he is playing it serious as a heart attack, and that's what makes the movie work.
I love that. Absolutely. So when I was a little girl, so you were too old for this, Alonso. It was my sweet spot. It was the summer I turned 9, and I loved Miss Piggy when I was a little girl. I had like a Miss Piggy lunchbox and tennis shoes, and just thought she was hilarious, and just I'm not a girly girl like that, but I just thought that she was so, like, her timing was so great, and like she had amazing hair. Yeah. When she's in prison, her hair is perfect. and I'm with you though, like watching what they did, like it feels like a giant leap technologically from what they were able to accomplish with the first Muppet movie. And I remember it's such a big deal to see like Kermit's legs dangling over the log when he's singing, but now they've taken that and just like exponentially heightened the technological.
I mean, he
challenge
does ride a bike in Muppet movie, but now you've got everybody riding
all
bikes.
All of them ride bikes. The little tiny rats ride bikes, and so I was impressed by that. I was impressed by all of the whole Busby Berkeley number, and just how her hair is like mermaid hair, and just the timing of it. And again, is they do it in a totally serious way in terms of the choreography and the timing and the costumes and all of the underwater sequencing. But then you have like Charles Grodin head And then Kermit shows up and they're like scowling at each other through their little windows. So ultimately it still reminds you that it's very silly. And I like that balance.
And they dub Charles Grodin with like this Mario Lanza voice, or Fernando Lamas or something. There is that disconcerting moment where it's clearly someone wearing a full body Miss Piggy costume diving off that platform. It's like, okay.
There's another scene. It's not as noticeable of a full body Miss Piggy when she's leaving the supper club at night. There's a shot from her behind, and you can tell it's somebody in like a Miss Piggy costume. And part of me's like, yeah, Henson, you still got a little bit to go on that.
In 1981, though, I mean, it's pretty impressive. So, Jacob, did you rewatch this before coming to see us today?
I did. I had rewatched it a couple of months ago, and it was really fresh in my mind. This is actually a movie I watch, similar to the first Muppet movie. I watch both of these movies a couple times a year.
Okay, so you like knew it by heart, basically.
Oh, absolutely. Like, okay. I know all the songs, most of the lines, and everything. And yeah, this is just one of those like comfort food movies for me, and I think it's also very personal for me because when I was a kid, I was a huge Muppet fan when I was a little kid, and it was something that I was often ridiculed for in school.
Aww.
Oh.
Because, 8, 9-year-olds, they think, oh, like an 8 or 9-year-old's version of the idea of the Muppets is like Sesame Street and stuff like that. Like they didn't watch anything like any of the movies or anything. So, but I think I also gravitated towards the Muppets because they're really a group of misfits. They're outsiders, and it's like a let's put on a show type of thing. And I think that really struck a chord with me when I was a kid because I was very much an outsider. And this was before I even knew that there was even a Muppet show. I knew the movies before the show, even before I even know the show was a thing. Mm-hmm. In fact, when for my 8th birthday, my mom got me the first season of the Muppet Show on DVD, and I didn't even know that even existed. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Because you're a lot younger than us. So we grew up with this.
Yeah, I was like 10 or 11 when the Muppet Show premiered, so that was my sweet spot for it.
I was born in 97, so we didn't have a whole ton of Muppet related stuff growing up because one of the things that I really don't like is the fact that since Disney bought the Muppets, they have done almost nothing with them, except for a couple of movies and a couple of TV specials. But
I liked the sitcom. I know not everyone did, but I thought it was great.
I like Jason Segel's Muppet movie. That was cute, right? Jason Segel's one?
Yeah, the two.
Oh, yeah, that was... The first of the Jason Segel one, I remember I saw it in the theater, and I thought I was going to start crying several times.
It's
like
sweet.
when they do the Muppet Show intro and everything, I was just like, oh, yes.
It's a nostalgic tug, right? It brings you back.
Absolutely, it is.
I laughed a lot. I enjoyed all of the celebrity cameos, like the whole bit, like the Diana Rigg when her jewelry gets stolen. Do you see the name of the building she's walking out of? It says Bond across the top of it. That's cute. The whole bit with Peter Falk is cute, where he's like a terrible detective and gets everything wrong. That Peter used it off in like one shot, essentially.
The Jack Warden scene cracked me up.
That was funny. The whole and the whole bit with them being twins, like it's like smart but stupid at the same time, very knowingly so. Yeah, I thought it was really charming, and it works on a lot of levels. I think whereas that's welcome with some of the running bits, that after a while don't really land so well. But it's wholesome. I think like it works for everyone on every level, whether you're a little kid just responding to the faces and the colors, or you're an adult and you get the fourth wall breaking and you get the meta references, pop culture references.
I didn't see this movie as a kid, but I did have the complete set of McDonald's glasses.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh. I have,
you still have them?
2 or 3 of those.
No, not anymore.
They're probably worth something, right?
Yeah,
Go on
and they're
eBay.
probably covered in lead paint too.
Right, makes it even more delicious. This is also for all of eternity the Academy Award nominated Great Muppet Caper.
Yes.
The original song.
First time that happens.
Which lost in the and Muppet movie lost in the same category because shockingly, Rainbow Connection did not win the best song Oscar.
That's
How is
crazy.
that possible? Right?
It lost to I want to say "It Goes Like It Goes" from Norma Rae, which is a lovely song, but come on, Rainbow Connection.
It's more enduring, right?
Yeah,
Don't you think?
And I think the songs in Muppet Movie on the whole are better than the songs here. Like they got Joe Raposo who did like the Sesame Street music, but I think Paul Williams sort of upped the game in that first movie that they don't quite pull off here.
Yeah. The John Cleese bit is cute.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of cute stuff here. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I was going to say I think that, the songs, they're not as a lot of them aren't as good as the Paul Williams, Kenny Asher ones in the first Muppet movie, but I think with what Henson was going for with the feel of an old fashioned musical, I think that they are really pretty good for what they are.
Sure.
And I know that the first time it happens lost, I think, to the theme from Arthur.
I think you're right. Yeah,
that's a big deal. Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's kind of like, I can see why it
that was
lost.
a huge radio hit. That song was on the. And this is way before your time. You weren't even. Your parents probably hadn't even met yet. But but that was a huge radio hit. The theme from Arthur. So
also though, speaking of the songs, I'm reminded that Jim Henson never quite understood rock in a way to make any of the Dr. Teeth songs any good. Like they were always just kind of like, yeah, and his vocals are like, you don't really get what you're doing here. Like if they had brought in somebody who really was of that world, like some member of, Leonard Skinner or somebody to write a Dr. Teeth song, maybe, then maybe not have Henson be the vocalist. But as is, it always just kind of, it's like when they try to do rock in a Broadway musical and you're like, no.
Yeah, that's not rock.
For sure. Although one thing that's really funny, I watched this on Disney Plus with the subtitles because I would just watch everything with subtitles.
Yes.
And when Beaker is talking, it says in parentheses like frightened meeps.
That's our band name.
Forever. All right, so Jacob, we do numbers here on Table for One like we do in our normal reviews. So from 1 to 10, what would you give The Great Muppet Caper?
Well, I'm not going to give it quite a 10, even though I do deeply love this movie. There are problems, a couple of issues, but I'm going to say 9. I think that it's really just a wonderful movie. It might not be as good as the original Muppet movie, but this hits my sweet spot in a way that very few movies do.
Alonso, what would you say?
Like a 7.1. I think there's a lot that's great because the Muppets are just wonderful, and even in their sort of B outings, there's enough that you want to chew on and enjoy. But they can and have done much better.
Yeah. I'll say a 7. It's delightful. I laughed a lot. So this was so much fun. Thank you for choosing a fun movie. Not everyone does.
Yeah.
So thank you for choosing a lighthearted one that made us laugh. We appreciate it. It's so good to meet you.
And thank you for supporting LA, Southern California Fire Relief, which this is one of our fundraisers. So thank you for that.
We appreciate you. Good to meet you, Jacob.
Yes, you too. Thank you.